Hi, Bernard.
Hello, try two.
Hello, is my line clear enough? Yes, Prosper.
Prosper, I can hear you.
I hope my line is clear enough. No, not very clear.
Hi, Prosper. Hi, Bernard. I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
Hi, all of you.
Hi there.
Okay, I can see Dr. Mallet. I can see, is it Hamidatu? Hi, Hamidatu. If you can hear me, give me a wave. Great. I can also see Emmanuel. I think Emmanuel is the technical administrator, right? Emmanuel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Prosper, I can see your name, but I can't see your face. Prosper. Okay, Prosper, great. I can see you. So, Prosper, are you the lecturer? Because on my brief, I don't have your name.
No, I'm the education specialist at UNESCO office. So
Okay.
my job, I'm representing the UNESCO country director to give opening remarks.
Oh, okay. So you give opening remarks and then hand over to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can see Dr. Doris something, but I don't.
Bernard, this is Doris.
Aha, Doris.
Yeah.
Hi, your face is not showing. Is that deliberate?
Okay, so let me show my face a bit because I'm not supposed to be
On it. Okay.
I'm trying
so,
hard. Cuckoo. Unmute. I'm trying to. I don't know why my has to.
I think the technology is trying.
Is everybody on or somebody's missing? Because I can't see Herbert.
Herbert is not here. Let me just call him now.
Okay, because we have a strict timeline to work with. So if
I
everybody,
agree, and it's fine.
If everybody is on, yes, if everybody is on, we can let Prosper start, and then we will go through. But before we go officially, let me just 2 quick points. If you are talking as a presenter, we've been given 10 minutes each. So if you see me waving my hand, it means you have 2 minutes to wrap up. So that's to the speakers. If you see me waving my hand, it means you have 2 minutes to wrap up, so you can try and wrap up. We'll do, each of the speakers will do 10 minutes, and then we have 15 minutes for Q&A at the end.
All right.
Are we clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Herbert, please try and help. Herbert is finding it difficult using the same link.
Okay. Hey, you will find us. So maybe for the sake of time, I think the country rep can take the floor and start so that we will be judicious with time because we are already 3 minutes into 2.
That's good.
So Prosper, we are waiting for you.
All right, thank you, Bernard. Good afternoon to all the young people who are connected from Ghana and I'm sure beyond Ghana. You are warmly welcome to this second edition of the UN Youth Impact Series under the theme COVID-19, a new world of learning for young people. As you are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused education disruptions in most countries around the world. Many governments like Ghana, that of Ghana, have closed down educational institutions in an attempt to contain the spread of this pandemic. Today's event will give us the opportunity to understand new ways of learning from the perspectives of policymakers and new young people who have joined now. These perspectives will actually help key stakeholders in developing the right strategies to support you young people to learn better, because as we are all aware, even if a cure is found for the pandemic today, our life is not going to be the same again. We need to devise new ways of learning, and also we should take advantage of the various ways, mediums, online and offline ways of upgrading ourselves. So today's event is very, very important. And without taking much of your time, I want to warmly welcome all of you young people. And I want to hand over to our moderator, who is a seasoned award-winning journalist and the general manager for City TV and City FM. He is a big man. And his name is Mr. Bernardino Koku Abele, who is a role model to a lot of people, including we, the old people. We listen to him every morning to start our day. So Bernard, take over. Thank you for accepting to do this for us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Prosper Nyavo, for bringing us those judicious opening remarks. Hello, everybody. I can see 116 participants. We look forward to hearing from you. My job here is very simple: to introduce people, ask them a few questions after they do their presentation, and then read out your questions for answers. As Prosper said, I'm a journalist, but I think the most important two credentials I have for today's panel is not my journalism. It's actually the fact that I am a parent, and my boys, we are trying to get them to learn or work from home while school is out, and it's been a big problem. So I'm here to learn from your collective experiences. And number two, I am the PTA chairman of my children's school, and we are trying to figure out how to manage the school in a COVID period with all these problems. So I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say. So we have three speakers. Two are already on. We have a student of the University of Ghana, Miss Hamida. She will be talking to us, sharing her real life experience on how COVID is affecting her learning. We also have Dr. Joshua Mallet, who is the director of SendLoss. He will talk to us about how technology can be a game changer or not in education during the pandemic. We're also hoping to have Mr. Herbert Krapper, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School, to talk to us about how new technology can be used for teaching. So thank you all. Hamida too. Thank you for agreeing to set the ball rolling. You have 10 minutes to share your experiences. Take it up.
Hamida Tukasim from Curious Minds Ghana. I'm a member of Curious Minds Ghana and a student of the University of Ghana. So I want to share my experience on the new world of learning for young people, not from only my experience, but from other young people too. So I would start with this new learning had a toll on our mental health and most of young people's mental health, because there was no proper transition from what ended, that's the class and lecture hall lessons, to online, and there was no time to adjust. So all we had to do was to obey to instructions and finish the lessons and not to be behind on the academic calendar. this left some people in shock, but these and the fear of unknown COVID-19 made it difficult to study. However, it cannot provide the same benefits as traditional learning, but some of the benefits include students are able to learn at their own convenient time and at their own pace. Slides, audios, and videos posted by lecturers can be replayed for better understanding if we don't get it with our first attempt. So I want to touch on the challenges. Some of the challenges are the expensiveness of data bundle. As we all know, during this pandemic, some businesses have collapsed and others have also slowed down. Some parents are not able to afford the data bundle for their wards to participate in this online learning. Distraction from parents and other social media platforms. Sometimes when you are having a class or a lesson online, a relative or a parent might call you to perform, to do something for him or her. And talking of the social media platforms too, sometimes when you have a lecture online or you are trying to research, there are things that pop up. And this online learning too, some children are included. As to whether these children have matured minds to know whether what have been popped up to them are right or wrong, they don't know. So they just follow these catchy ads and then get to know what is in. So a chunk of them diverts their attention to these ads and then it slows down learning. UNICEF did some cyber conference in 2018, 2019, which shows that some young people are not equipped with information before going online and they misuse the space. So comparing motivation at home and motivation at school, motivation at home to study is less, and which makes it difficult to pull up good grades. In schools, sometimes you have group studies with your friends and the motivation is there to pull up good grades. Also, times allocated to our for our quizzes are not enough. Sometimes you'll be given 40 questions to use 10 minutes to answer. And when there is a jam in network, you find yourself wanting. Sometimes you'll be sitting down waiting for the network to be back, but yet you wouldn't get it. And when the network comes back, the time will run out. And here you fail because you weren't able to answer all these questions. So I want to also talk about the remote learning and lack of study desks and the condition in which we learn. Sometimes we are able to learn on our beds because we are at home, and then it's our convenient place for learning. But as comparing it to school, it wouldn't be the same. You find yourself in a classroom to learn, maybe in the library or other study areas that you can learn. So I want to touch more on the unstable network. Since we came home, sessions have frozen and stopped due to the hitch from telcos. And because of this, students are not able to partake in most online sessions. Children as at age 5, 6, 7 are being made to partake in this online classes, and some of the children do not have their own personal devices. They intend to use that of their parents and other relatives. So when the parents or the relatives are not around, that means they won't get the chance to partake in this online learning. Other parents too do not have knowledge about what is going on. Some have little, and here's the case: they are supposed to assist their wards in this online learning. And if a parent wasn't able to further the education to some kind of level, it will be very difficult for this parent to assist their ward. And notes too are being given to these children in the form of PDF. A child in grade 5 wouldn't be able to understand what PDF is, how he or she is going to access the notes from PDF if he or she doesn't get any assistance from her teacher or her neighbor. I found myself in this case where I visited my neighbor and she didn't know that there was an online class going on. I just had to take her phone, go to show her child this notes she's supposed to copy. These are the assignments she's supposed to do. Download a suitable app so that she'll be able to access her notes. And in this case, if I wasn't available or if there wasn't anyone to help her, that means the child won't be able to partake in this online learning. So I think there are some possible solutions that I would suggest. I think it's a good session to roll out, it's a good season to roll out a device support initiative for needy students to ensure no one is left out, particularly children in rural Ghana who have relied on drawings for their ICT and take the same exams with children in Accra. Secondly, the appropriate stakeholders, that is Ministry of Communications, Ministry of Education, and the Chamber of Telecommunications, must deliberate and introduce student packages or charge little to nothing for educational websites. These stakeholders should invest in safe and secure learning portals to enable students focus and study with ease, supporting teachers and lecturers with the right tools to ensure alternative learning pathways yield results. It's amazing during this season, and we are supposed to all partake, even not all, majority of the students are supposed to partake in this online learning. Most lecturers or some lecturers or teachers do not fully partake because they have little or no idea about the use of some ICT tools and equipment. So with this, I think it will be good if these stakeholders invest in them. And TV stations and radio stations should also bring up educative programs for children, or they should advertise channels in which children can be tuning in to watch educational programs. It should be an everyday thing that will capture the minds of children and their parents to get them interested. And channels who also do this should keep on doing it. So at this juncture, despite the challenges of the outbreak and educational realignment, we don't want to neglect other penitent issues like the taxation of sanitary pads. Hence, I would like to use this medium as an opportunity, especially on menstrual hygiene day, to appeal to all stakeholders to help that change. This is why I draw the curtains on my presentation. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hamidatu. Thank you very much. I was saying that if I could get as much from 10 minutes as you got from 10 minutes, I'll be paid a lot more money. Brilliant presentation, and we'll come back to you with some questions. Let me now take a teacher's perspective, since you gave us a student's perspective. Our teacher is Mr. Herbert Crapper. He's a lecturer at University of Ghana School of Law. He joined us a few minutes into the conversation. So, Herbert, we will give you 10 minutes to tell us how COVID times are affecting teaching and the impact of new technology. If you see me raise my hand, it means you have 2 minutes to wrap up as a way of reminder. So, Herbert, please take it up.
Thank you, Bernard. And let's say a good afternoon to everyone listening to us. I think we have come to the realization, all of us, that these are very difficult times that we are in. COVID has definitely changed how we would see education, and we'll see a lot of things in terms of our social lives for a very long time to come. I think the world is doing a lot to try and put COVID behind us. But while we are at that, a lot of things have to go on. Education is integral to a lot of things, and it has to go on. So you will know that quickly the government of Ghana, through the Ministry of Education, acting through most of the institutions, will roll out what is the online teaching platform or method. At the University of Ghana, We have tried to use various platforms, particularly Zoom and WebEx, to do the teaching. Personally, I use both of them, Zoom and WebEx, to try and engage my students. We have had to use recordings. We have had to use lecture notes. We've had to use the online presentation as well to do the teaching for the students. I won't say that it's been very smooth. The first couple of weeks, we surely had challenges, but moving on, it would get better and better. And it itself tells us that we can pay attention to this new way of life that we've been plunged into, and see how we can actually harness the positives from the negatives. I think the challenges are there. You have the challenge of infrastructure, definitely. Hamida mentioned that technology itself is not something that for most of us we are very much used to. And even that, when you have the connection, not everyone is skilled enough to be able to do the delivery online, so that you are able to get the impact that you want. Attention is one big problem. How are you able to get the attention of the students so that, well, you can't see them, because most of the time when they're connected on, you really can't see them. Their videos and their microphones are off. How are you able to ensure that you have the attention of the students to be able to impact them the way you have to? So, for instance, I've broken most of my classes into groups, and what I do is that I spend the first, usually lectures are 2 hours, so I spend the first hour engaging the students, and then the second hour I do more of the talking. So what I'll do is that I'll break you into groups, and each day you have some groups utilizing the first hour. And what I'll do, I'll give you the bare structure of the topic. So rather than give you the notes before the class, I would rather give you the bare content. So I will point you to which textbooks you're supposed to look at. I'll point you to which other reading materials you're supposed to look at. I'll point you to which case law you're supposed to pay attention to in the bare structure, what I call the bare structure. And then what I do is that I assign the groups to do some form of participation in the first hour. So, for instance, if I have a group of 6 members, I could say that your job is to discuss 6, let's say, shortcomings of a particular school of thought, if you want. And then in the first hour of the lecture, I make sure that every one of them participates in that discussion. And then in the second hour, we do sort of my delivery, and then we mop up. I found that typically by the time I am doing my delivery in that second hour, I found that we would usually cover as much as possible within the first part of the discussion. And we have had a lot of people participating as well. I think, Bernard, we should actually, when I say we should take the positives from the negatives, we should actually see how the COVID, we should see how this pandemic would cause us to change our teaching and learning methods, probably for good. We should be able to push the frontier of our teaching and learning method into a new, more dynamic and more practical way. And this is what I mean. We should be able to take advantage of it in a way that we discard chew and pour for good. I think it is a very outdated and outmoded way of us impacting students, and we should do away with it. I think it should help us to practicalize learning. One thing that you will find is a problem is how, for instance, you would assess the students, because there's probably some possibility of inequality and cheating, if you want, in an online assessment, because you will give students time to take the work home, or you give students time because they're home already. You give students time to do the work and then present it back to you. I think what we should actually pick from that is to make sure that, if for nothing at all, 50% of the, or even more, I'll probably push it to about 60 or 70% of the grading should be continuous and should be part of the practical participation in the coursework, so that by the time we are done, I'm saying that each student should have participated more directly in the teaching or in the delivery than they would have if it was just waiting for the end of the semester to do the end of semester examination. So I think we should actually look at the positive from this structure. I've seen that Cambridge University say that they would continue with the online delivery up to about 2021. Let's not take it for granted. Bernard, by the time that the extension is not only because they are handicapped, I'm thinking that they actually, by now, finding ways to evolve teaching and learning via the internet, so that with or without a pandemic, so that with face-to-face learning or not, teaching and learning or not, they are able to actually use technology to add on to teaching and learning methods going forward. And I think also that, for instance, one of my colleagues was talking to me about a couple of days ago, and he was telling me that before the pandemic, he was very, very, he says scared. He's not been a big fan of technology. But since the pandemic, he tells me that he actually now challenges his boys to technology and online assessments and online participation. And I think we should also think about how we train our lecturers who would deliver these online courses. In this first part, which has been really a test period, I'm sure everybody has tried to go through the thing in a, as we say in Ghana, in a buga way, permit me. But I think we should be able to...
Herbert, you have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes. I think we should be able to streamline the delivery better. But in the end, what I'm saying is that ultimately, when we get out of this pandemic, and I know we would, when smallpox was eradicated, it was considered the single biggest humanitarian effort of the 19th century. I think we get out of COVID. I think we get out of this pandemic. But I think we should come out with a positive that I think personally that helps us to do away with or change, evolve the way that we have seen teaching and learning in this country, and rather make it more practical, make it more participatory, and make sure that students are impacted more directly in a practical way than in a theoretical way like we've had it.
Wow, thank you very much, Herbert Krapper, for that amazing making lemonade out of lemons presentation. I like the fact that you spent half of the time discussing what we have as a problem, and then half of the time the solutions and the opportunities. So thank you very much, Herbert. I think that lays the foundation nicely for our next speaker. He is Dr. Joshua Mallet, and he is the director of the very interestingly named Center for National Distance Learning and Open Schooling. I didn't even know they existed until COVID came. So Dr. Mallet, you have the floor. 10-minute presentation. You'll be muted, so please put on your mic before you start speaking. Thank you.
Once again, good afternoon. Hi, Bernard. It's good seeing you for the first time, though virtually. And bonjour to every other person listening to us around the world. Let me take it from a very interesting perspective. This is a wake-up call. I'm sure I might be the oldest so far in this program, This is first of all a wake-up call, and I'm inspired by Fred Swanika, who is a well-known Ghanaian-born educationist. He says that Africa is the world's youngest continent, and over 60% of Africans are youth, 25 years or younger. By the year 2035, which is just 15 years from now, Africa will be the largest workforce. And by 2100, that is in 80 years from now, half of the world's young people will be Africans. So I am looking at the challenge, even though I am older, far older, I'm looking at the challenge from this perspective. The first thing I want to make is that with this COVID-19, change has already come. Of course, not for me, not in my domain, change has happened over the years because this is what we do. But for all of us, change has come. Education from the pre-tertiary must now become solution and innovation training. That is, we must provide solutions and innovations to challenges. Education must change. The question now is, what will the youth offer to learning styles 15 years hence? That is, in 15 years' time, you who are listening and are so young, have 15 years to your age. What will you do today to change learning in 15 years' time? We've been talking about e-learning, but let me look at just two aspects of e-learning, the way we look at it from Sandler's. Everybody has tried different forms of e-learning, but I don't know if you have paid close attention to adaptive learning. We have reached a time where adaptive learning is the answer. The best way to describe it is personalized, tech, and data-driven response to individual needs, which means we expect the lecturers, like the beautiful and eloquent Herbert, to throw challenges to students, to personalize it, to look for data and use technology to get the response, though the responses might be different. This week, I spoke to two people when I was preparing for this program. One of them holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from a reputable university in Ghana. She is today unemployed because of COVID. And I spoke to another young man who has an SHS qualification. He has employed 6 people because he is doing skills. So we have to think fast. Now, we have been talking about electronic devices and self-paced learning. When we're talking about e-learning, like Hamidatu said, everybody is managing his or her device. But the interesting thing is that the youth, which constitute over 60% of our population today, what motivates you? What is your priority for buying a handheld device, a laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone? Is it just because you want to buy it and keep it, or you want to play with it, or you want to produce solutions? That is what the youth must be thinking about now. Where do you focus your priority? When we start throwing questions, it will interest you to know that we have tested in a public senior high school here in Accra the use of smartphones in the school. And they have taken up to 80 smartphones to school, and it has been controlled and it has been very useful. The solution now is that the point now is that we must, in my opinion, not be problem solvers anymore. It is a common thing to say we are problem solvers. We must rather be solution providers. Look for solutions. It will interest you to know that the majority of the population or the youth are just following what is happening. 98%, it is believed, of people are just followers. And you don't ask me if I am the government, I throw it back to the youth, the population. You are the government. In my department here, in my agency, we gathered together a few young Ghanaian engineers, and they have produced a technology called the iBox. The iBox works like a server. You can browse your lessons on it, but it does not use the internet. You connect at 100-meter radius and you get content. It is not using the internet. We have provided it to over 140 schools in Ghana, and it is working. These are young people who took up the challenge when we threw it to them to find a solution to a problem of internet, etc. And the government finally supported it with funding from the World Bank, and it is working. I want to touch just on 3 last things, and then I'll leave it there. Post-COVID-19 and COVID-19 have actually shaken up the Ministry of Education, and we have risen up to it. Today, we have at least a dedicated TV channel on Ghana Broadcasting Corporation giving some form of lesson. Now, let me say some, because it is in the heat of the moment, some form of lesson from KG to JHS. Alongside the same program on GLTV, we have SHS content. And you can see the SHS content has been more refined because it was developed before COVID-19. Now, we have also created a portal, icampusgh.com, for SHS. All public SHS students can have access to it, and Vodafone and MTN are giving us some level of 0 rating so that they can log in for almost free. And then the TV too has added to it. And then again, as I'm speaking right now, we are fast working on establishing an open university, which will focus more on skills. So very soon we'll create an open university in the country. These are things being done by the Ministry of Education, among others. And we know that Ministry of Communication is also working on, that is through NITA, on providing connectivity to all schools. We also have in mind, of course, persons with disability, but we put them together with special people also, because there are people who have, whose IQ may be that high that they are more special to fit into the general classroom than others. So also persons with disability. We have given a little taste to it by using sign language on the TV, the GLTV, but on the iBox, you can do all your practicals using the computer, virtual laboratory. You can pour your chemicals, you can do everything on the iBox or on the iCampus. So we are working fast at meeting the needs of the marginalized and the special people. The last thing I want to touch on is that to us, COVID-19 has brought both challenges and opportunities for successes. But the problem is, again, us, public perception. We must have a drastic change, Thank you very much. 1 minute more. And then we must do more research. We must adapt to situations. We must look for more funds and train more people, like Herbert said, train people. But I have the joy and the hope that, as usual, Africa once again will leapfrog in this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And that was a nice way of fusing everything together, a very balanced presentation, starting from the continental and letting us see the opportunities and some of the solutions that are already being rolled out. So if you guys will permit, I will just ask one quick round of questions to the panel, because we have a lot of questions coming in from our over 200 participants, which I want us to dig into. So let me start with Hamdia. So your copy, Hamidatu, look, you listed a lot of things, the adjustments students are having to make with this COVID and this online learning. But do you see any opportunity as a young person at all? Because I understand the problem, I understand the limitations, but as a student, are there any opportunities for you for things that you couldn't have done for you to be able to do now that we are having to use this type of learning? So that's the question I have for you, Hamidatu.
I think with the slides, some teachers have reposted the slides we used from the beginning of the semester. That's, I think probably we had some few weeks in school. Some teachers have posted those slides, so we are able to go back and learn from those slides. Other teachers too haven't. And yes, the case, I want to touch on this problem to in answering my question. During the this period, teachers have given students more research work, more assignments to do in order to learn new things in addition to the old ones that most lecturers or teachers have not even recapped them with us. So I think not all lecturers do, but few of the lecturers have posted slides back for us to learn, and then the rest are piling more assignments for researching. And with this, we have to learn the old ones and then learn the research ones, like the new ones they asked us to go and research. We have to learn or do the assignments and then write exams again. So I think they adding more assignments and research work, and they are not allowing us to go back to learn like the previous ones, even though they've not posted them and we are to find them on our own. Mr. Bernard, I hope you get me. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Amida, thank you very much for that. I wanted to come to Herbert. I was intrigued by how you are able to still get group work done within an online learning platform. I thought that was just amazing. How you divide your 2 hours into the first hour, basic structure, group work, participation, and then your lecture. Why is that important? And has that posed any challenges? Because different students have different internet connections, and because of social distancing, they can't meet. How have you been able to pull that off? Just talk to me a bit, elaborate a bit more on that.
Thank you, Bernard. I think, yes, there's been a few challenges. Yesterday, I had a group doing a presentation, and at some point, we lost the presenter because I'm sure to internet challenges. I called on the group head. I assigned every group a group head, and it's just the first person. Once I do the splitting, the first name is the automatic group head for me. So then I call on the group head to take charge of the situation, and she filled in until the original presenter came back to say her connection is better now. And so we've had those challenges, and so we've also had to resort sometimes to the message box that you can send messages, and then those messages can be read. So I can read sometimes if the presenter is having internet problems. The other day, Wednesday morning, a student posted a question. I was teaching administrative law. A student posted a question on the message chat, and then I said, "Ask your question. I want to hear you because I want to interact with you." And he said, "Oh, it's noisy where I am." I said, "Where are you at 8? That is noisy." He said, "Oh, compound house." I said, "Please, we're all in a compound house, so please ask your question." But we've had those challenges. But we're able to still use the tools that the platform provides to try and get out of it. I've also shared my email address with all my students. Even today, I've had an email, someone asking me to give them some further explanation as to the difference between two different schools of thought. The challenges are there, but I think if we are able to break the classes into smaller units, it just means that the lecturers would have to do some more work. Because if I had 100 or 70 students in a class, and I think that it'll be more effective if I had 50 or 40. So I'll break the class into 2 so that I can break that 40 into groups of, say, 8 per group, if you want, so 5 groups. And then we can use the 1 hour to do what I'm looking for is for the student to actually be part of their own training, rather than Bernard, you and I are contemporaries. This chew and pour thing is how we have come with how we have gotten where we are. We've of course understood certain things, but we also so many things that we have to study 1 week or 2 weeks to exam. What I do is that the group, after doing their presentation, actually send the presentation, post the presentation on the page. So now I have a group WhatsApp page. I'm on the WhatsApp page for all the subjects that I teach now: jurisprudence, constitutional law, legal method, administrative law, control of administrative institutions. And so they post the work on the platform, and the other students, the other group, is able to take advantage of the work that the one group has done, and like that they share. I think I am interested in, like I said, moving that up all the way up to 70%. And for all the classes that I'm assessing, I'm doing 70% of that practical work.
Oh, okay, Mr. Herbert,
of the classroom.
Before I even come to Dr. Mallet, there's a lot of questions for you. So let me just ask you one pertinent question.
Yes, please go ahead.
They want to know whether University of Ghana supports students with data. That question has been coming very regularly. With all the nice things you are talking about, does the university support students with data to enable them access this?
I think in the beginning, the university made SIM cards available to students. But I think at some point the data runs out, and there should be a way to top up the data for the students. I had one student, a friend's sister, who got in touch with me recently, and I said, I didn't see you in I was invited to take a taught class recently. I said, were you in the taught class? And then she said, no. I said, why? She said she didn't have data. And I thought that was a, because if data is able to stop a student from participating in the lecture, then it's a problem. But that's why we also have to record the lectures and post the lecture back on the page, and you can access it when.
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Mallet. So, Doc, there are people who say we don't even have light, electricity, let alone internet. Okay. And then, of course, there are some who have light, they have internet, but they can't afford it. They don't have the devices. Now, you propose some interesting solutions and devices. My question to you is, are there some basic things that we need to do infrastructure-wise before online learning can really take off? Or even with where we are with all our problems, it's possible to make it a national effort, if you get my question. So can we, where we are now, say, look, everybody can be touched with something. We don't have to wait for everybody has electricity. We don't have to wait for everybody to have internet before we start online learning. Dr. Mallet.
I think we have actually come to that already with this COVID, which has suddenly driven everybody home. It tells me that we have already been pushed against the corner, and so it has started. So first of all, yes, but with big challenges here and there. It will interest you, Bernard, to know that when we created the iBox, we gave it to schools, including Hamley, where it's closer to the border, no electricity, no security. The system was built in a way that, of course, it uses solar panel for energy, and then anybody can connect anything to it, from cell phone to computer, once you are within 100-meter radius, if without the need for an additional access point. But the truth is that we just have to take the challenge and push the system, the government, to keep providing, which the government is doing. Government has announced that internet connectivity is being provided and will cover all public schools right through to SHS at least, and it will go further. Government is working on linking all universities to make sure that the university, even though they have their own individualized solutions, government is trying to up it and make it work more smoothly. So these possibilities are there. The third one is you're talking about maybe students to have their own gadgets, their own computers and laptops. I know government is also working at finding a possibility of manufacturing them here so that it will be easier to supply, easier to sell, easier to service. But for now, I have always believed that everybody, especially the youth, can afford to have something to work with now. It may not be perfect. We all have cell phones. In fact, I have done a research among the KIAs. Some KIAs have 2 cell phones. So I'm believing that everybody will have something to start with, especially in this time of challenge and improvement.
Okay. This question is to all of you, and I want you to answer it in a minute. We've all talked about learning, delivering knowledge, and we understand it. What about assessment? Does assessment have to change to adjust to where we are. So for example, BEC, do we have to all go and sit in a center and write exam, or will we have to think differently about how we are assessed as well? So let me start with Hamidatu and then Herbert. What do you think about how assessment is done? How does it have to change in this era?
Talking of the WASI and BEC students, I think they can write in badges with different questions. Maybe badge A will write DS within a certain period of time with different sets of questions, so that there will be no form of plagiarism. Maybe when someone from badge A writes and tells badge B can also go and meet the same questions and will deliver and write it very well. And comparing it to badge A, there will be some kind of cheat. So I think for those writing the WASI and the BEC, they can write in badges with different questions.
So you are thinking about just making the exam easier to deliver the exam, not changing the assessment. Because, for example, Professor Ade said today that we can stop the BEC and just do a university entrance exam. Some people are even talking about oral examinations instead of having to sit and write papers. I get a sense you are not ready for that here. You are just talking about adjusting the way the paper is written to respect social distancing. Hamidatu.
Just assessing, please. Can you?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe let me come to Herbert and I'll come back to you. So my point is, should we not be rethinking how you assess a student other than simply going to sit down and write an exam? Because you've taught students, they do participation in class. You can tell if the guy understands what you're teaching. He doesn't go and write a 3-hour paper, does he, Herbert?
Yeah, no, he doesn't at all. And I think, yes, we can, over time, phase out certain things, but we should also accept and admit that we are faced currently with real logistical and infrastructural problems. And so how do we try and fit in the two problems so that no one is left out? If you're going to use an online assessment, especially for this BEC and WASI, I think that you're going to have a real logistical and infrastructural nightmare. And the last thing that you want is to leave anybody out, for anyone to be defeated because of that problem. So I think that in the immediate term, and it should be faced in different time periods, but in the immediate term, I think what would be fair is for the BEC and the WASI candidates, there has to be a way to make sure that each person is accounted for in terms of sitting the paper. And if it is breaking into small groups to ensure that we respect the social distancing protocols so that we can account for every single individual taking the paper, I think in the immediate term, we probably have to resort to that. And then going forward, because it also means that we as a nation, we have to pay attention to our electricity, infrastructure, telecommunication issues. And if once we are able to tackle, I'm saying that let's look at the positive out of the negative.
Okay.
And be more aggressive
right.
with ensuring the penetration of electricity
right.
and telecommunication to various parts of the country. And then we can begin to think about how we can utilize those avenues and those platforms.
Thank you.
But in the meantime,
Dr. Mallet,
I doubt that we can do that.
Dr. Mallet, your quick thoughts, yeah.
Yes, my quick thoughts. These are my personal thoughts. I think Bernard Herbert has actually opened the floodgates. With my background and experience in working in my career, I would go for a total change. I believe it is possible. And I believe that you can assess people on different bases, even though they are in the same class. The slow learner, the quick learner, they should all be assessed and differently. And I believe that the one who will take more time to do with whatever it is, whether we're using electronic system, we have started doing research into that. And we believe that the time is coming soon when we have to think about that. There should be examination on demand. You should be able to request for your examination to be repackaged. All these things are possible. And I think it is going to happen soon. But I am all for it. And here at St. Louis, we are working towards that.
I want to read a few questions generally, and then each panelist can pick one or two and just comment briefly because we have less than 10 minutes. So let's just hear the questions I have. Akwesi Sapong from UT Leaf. He says, I suggest there's urgent need to introduce digital or electronic teaching into the curriculum of all teacher training colleges in Ghana and institute a 6-month digital electronic teaching in all universities for lecturers. This should be the first step. He also says, I also suggest in teacher education with digital tools should be part of educational reforms and added to the proposed national university bill. So that's an immediate solution. Another person says, we already have the e-learning in place, but my problem is the logistics, palm top or laptop for students who are poor. And then he gives an example of what happened whilst he or she was at Uniba. Another one, for young people who stay at home with parents who still don't get the concept of e-learning, it's tough. I see how an SHS girl in my neighborhood has crazy home loads or household chores and then has to sit behind the TV to study at night. The boys did not help. This exposes the underlying gender challenges with regards to education. Hamidatu, I'll be very happy for your comment on that. And then a general question, somebody wants to know how we can make this happen for rural students. And maybe I'll probably ask in your concluding comments. Hamidatu, in terms of home, gender stereotypes, girls have to stay home. They have to do all the chores. His brothers are playing football, and yet she's the one doing the dishes and cooking. What changes do we need there? And then Herbert, we are all talking about teaching, yet they are saying we have to train the teachers in the training colleges. What do you need to learn to be a better teacher? And then Dr. Mallet, finally, is there a tiered solution? Urban areas have one solution, rural areas have another solution. So let me start with Hamidatu, and these are your final comments. Hamidatu. Hamidatu, okay, good. Go ahead.
I think the perception that girls are supposed to learn the house chores and be in the kitchen and boys are supposed to play should be taken off. I think it should be a collective responsibility between both genders. That's the male and the female. Maybe when the female is cooking, the male can assist in washing of dishes and other stuff, so that when they finish, they can all go back to visit their books. But if here's the case, one gender is allowed to do other stuff like play, and the other person is being stressed with house chores, it will really affect the person. So I think sharing the responsibility among the two genders will be good if it's being taken into consideration.
Yes. Herbert.
Bernard, thank you. I think clearly, like I said earlier, these are times that we are all experimenting different things. There's a lot to be learned. I think a separate program that teaches those of us who are doing the teaching will be critical, so that we can all harness the different experiences that we have gathered from this first phase and be able to fall on experts who understand these things, Dr. Mallet and co, to be able to educate us better as to how we ourselves can be more practical and can impact the learners better. Bernard, young people use the same social media avenues to know what is going on in the world in terms of current affairs and entertainment. I think there's a chance for us to aggressively and forcefully push academic information onto that same platform. But we have to make it more interesting. We have to move learning away from the way people have understood it as a form of pain, but so that they can actually see that there's something actually in there. There's something in there to help them develop themselves, to help them develop their own capacity. And I think that finally, it's an opportunity for us to train more research minds. We should use it as an opportunity to help students and learners actually develop more research skills, and the benefits outlive their lives in education.
Thank you. Let me give the last word to Dr. Mallet.
Right. Let me put this rural-urban situation together. Bernard, it will interest you to know that when we did the e-learning course content production for the country and we brought both rural and urban teachers together, the rural teachers, actually the rural school teachers gave us more and richer input than those in the urban and highly classed schools. So in other words, both the rural and the urban situation have different challenges, but they have common potentials. We are believing that if you go e-learning, if somebody buys one computer, your books are in there, e-books, your exercise book is there, WhatsApp and email, your pens and pencils are there, your storage is there through hard drive or cloud, everything goes in. So if government begins to work at giving you one device, it might cover almost all the things you're supposed to do. We are working towards that, and we have tried it, and it seems to be working. Like I've said, the people in the rural areas after, now let me put it this way, teachers are teaching students who may have had poorer grades, and they are all working towards getting to the same tertiary institution along with those who had higher grades. Then you ask yourself, who is teaching better? The one who is teaching the poorer grade student to make it, or the one who is sharpening the one with higher grade? We have tried it. I think it's difficult, but it is possible, and we can work towards that. And remember, I've told you, by 15 years' time, the youth will rule the whole situation. They must.
All right. Thank you. But before we close, I need to bring in the resident, Mr. Prospanyavo, to give us the closing remarks and also some highlights. But I want to say thank you to the panel, Hamida to Kasim, student, University of Ghana, Herbert Krapper, lecturer, University of Ghana Law School, and Dr. Joshua Mallet, Director of Senate Law. So, Mr. Prospanyavo, we want to take the closing words, some announcements, and the way forward from you.
All right. I was thinking our colleagues from UNFPA, their boss is around or is not there, so that I'll just go ahead. I want to thank you, Bernard, and the whole panel, Mr. Krapper, Ahmad. Okay, I've seen the short form of Hamida. Mida. She's written Mida. I'm sure it's a preferred name. Dr. Mallet. I'm so grateful to you, and I'm grateful to the teaming young people who have joined. I've been reading the comments, very rich. It shows that they have a good interest in what we are discussing. The UN system in Ghana will continue to hold this Youth Impact Series. It's an initiative by UNFPA, and this time around they have collaborated with UNESCO, where I work, and it's for the whole UN system in Ghana. We are going to do several of such Youth Impact Series, focusing on different topics. So I urge young people to look forward to more announcements of future engagements like this. Thank you very much, Bernard, for making the program very interesting. Thank you. Over.
So thank you very much, and we'll serve refreshment where you are. You will refresh yourself with water where you are. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I was